Just a reminder to our Speculating Wildly About Crime listeners, this is for entertainment purposes only and solely the thoughts and opinions of our team. We do invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to Speculating Wildly About Crime. I'm your host today. My name is Jamie. Today, I'm going to bring you a case yet again from Wisconsin. I promise someday I'm going to cover a case outside of that state. But today, we are going to cover the case of Kayla Berg. The main source I used today was basically the episode of Disappeared. I also did listen to the podcast Obsessed with Disappeared, now known as I Think Not, and take you all on the journey. So we're all going to Wisconsin back to 2009. We are going to an even smaller town in Wisconsin by the name of Antigo, Wisconsin. We're here in 2009. The town I will paint you it's your quintessential Midwestern town. Everybody leaves their doors open. Everybody leaves their cars unlocked. You know everybody when you go to Walmart. You know everybody when you go to McDonald's. A couple of things I do want to paint the case on with Kayla. So she was from a family of four. Her parents got divorced when she was a toddler, so probably 2 or 3 years old. Shortly after her parents' divorce, her dad fell ill with cancer. It should also be noted that Kayla had a brother that was 3 years older than her, and they were super close. At the time in 2009, Kayla was 15, her brother was 18, and they were all living in Antigo together. Kayla's dad and Kayla's mom had a very amicable co-parenting relationships. They wanted to go with their mom or they wanted to go with their dad. There was no, here's my day and here's your day. It's just do whatever the kids are comfortable with. So they had a really good relationship in that retrospect. So we are in June of 2009. So Kayla just finished her sophomore year of high school, and her mom was struggling with finding work. In addition to that, Kayla was starting to get into the wrong type of crowd. She was starting to experiment with drinking. And again, she's only 15 at the time. She is also experimenting with marijuana. And then on top of that, she has an older boyfriend that is 19 while she's 15, and mom didn't necessarily approve of it. All of this was a perfect storm for her mom to say, hey, we've got this family down in Texas. Things aren't going great for us here. We're going to make a move. June of 2009, Hope, her mother, says, hey, we're going to move, Kayla and I. Jimmy, her brother, if you want to come with us, you can. If you want to stay here, great. Jimmy's, hey, I'm 18. My whole life is here. I'm going to stay here. All right, fine. It's totally cool. So Kayla and Hope make the trek down to Texas. Wouldn't be long until they have encountered that, lo and behold, the job market's not that different in Texas. So she wasn't able to find a job as fast as she thought she would. In addition to that, Kayla was starting to miss her friends. Kayla was starting to miss her family. And one thing I forgot to note is Kayla was super into gymnastics, like into gymnastics from the time she was probably 3 years old. By the time she was 15, she was great at it. She was a superstar on her team when she was at Antigo High School. And they moved down to Texas, and she goes to the new high school. They don't have a fucking gymnastics team. So now mom can't find work. I don't have my friends, and I don't have gymnastics. And then let's also throw into it, now my dad's super sick. He took a turn for the worse. He's now into dialysis, and he has all these issues with his cancer. So Hope is, you know what? All the signs are pointing to, it's been cool, Texas, but we're out. So they make a 20+ hour trek back home to Wisconsin in Antigo in August of 2009. So they drove straight through the night, and they got there, and everybody was super excited to be back with her family, be reunited with her son, and have their dad close by. So everything seemed pretty happy. Things were a little broken, though, I will say. So when they moved back, because it was so sudden, Hope ended up seeing with some friends, And because they didn't have a house of their own, she said, Kayla, do you want to stay with me at my friend's house, or would you rather stay with your dad, who I should note was living with his parents? So if Kayla was going to stay there, she had to stay like on a cot, kind of in a hallway. It was weird, but she was like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I just want to hang out with my friends. So sure, I'll go stay with dad and I'll live there. Because Kayla had ended up living on this cot, so to speak, I do want to make a note that it was pretty regular for her to sleep at other friends' house. So she wasn't always at mom's house or always at dad's house. So just want to paint the picture as far as that goes. On August 2nd, Kayla starts to get reacquainted with all of her friends. And on August 9th, I believe it was, she goes to her mom and says, hey, I'm going to go spend the night with my friend Tasha. We've been friends for a very long time. I haven't seen her in a while. We're just going to go hang out tonight. Hope wakes up the next morning, and I think it was Tasha's mom that called and said, hey, I don't know where the kids are. Do you know where they are? No, they're supposed to be at your house. What the hell? So they start talking, and they're like, I bet they went partying in Wausau. So I'm going to take a time out here. Wausau was the quote unquote big city. We are all from some big city areas. Missy's close to the cities, David's close to Nashville, Janelle lives in Dallas, Kashi lives right outside of New York. Y'all, Wausau's not a big fucking city. And the population is 40,000 as of today. So these girls, they live in this very small town. I think Antigo is a population of less than 10,000, maybe 13 at the most. Everybody knows everybody. So to go to Wausau, where you have 40,000 people and it's known as a party town and you get to hang out with these older people, it's cool, right? It's a big city. It's a place to go. However, in hindsight, it's really not. Hope and this mom said, I fucking bet they were partying in Wausau, but let's just see what happens. So hours pass and then finally they're like, okay, nothing's coming up. We haven't heard from them. I should say nobody had cell phones. I'm not quite sure why.
It could have been like a financial thing if her mother couldn't find work.
So yes,
Also,
however,
totally
in their whole
anecdotal.
group of friends, there was only one person that had a cell phone.
And two, like you got to think of the location as well, right? Like I live in a big city. We've got towers. But when you're thinking of these smaller towns, like they're the last one. There are places around me that still can't get internet.
And
Fuck.
maybe I can speak to this because I am from Wisconsin, and where I grew up was a town of 400.
Oh my
Um, and
gosh.
I'm
now
dead,
where I live,
Dana. What?
now where I live is a metropolis compared to that, and I live in a town of 800. I feel like I can speak to the rural small town Wisconsin experience a little bit. And to what you're saying, David, yes, if I call my mom on my way home from work, there's a certain spot where I go, okay, I'm going down the hill. I'm going to lose you. Bye.
Back to August 9th, 7 days after they moved back, Hope and Tasha's mother are at the police station because they didn't come home. So they're filing a missing persons report. They're literally ready to sign on the dotted line and rings, somebody's cell phone rings. Hey, mom, just want to let you know we're okay. I am literally at the police station reporting you missing. Get your ass home and we're going to talk about some things. I had my day. I said I was at a friend's house one night and I wasn't there and I didn't come home. I feel like we all did it to an extent. Obviously, Kayla gets home. Hope has a conversation with her. I don't want you fucking going to Wausau anymore. I don't want you dating Miguel anymore. You need to tell me everywhere you go, everything you do. This shit cannot happen again. Careless, yep, you're right. I'm going to tell you my every move from here on out. So sorry that this happened. Fast forward to 2 days later, August 11th. Kayla does as she said she would, calls her mom while her mom was at work. So, yay, Hope got a job. So proud of her. But Kayla says, hey, mom, I'm going to go hang out at Tasha's today. Are you cool with it? Hope says, sure, yeah, that's fine. So Kayla goes over to Tasha's. They go to the park for most of the day. And then late afternoon, they have to go back to Tasha's house because she got a new job at a restaurant out there. And I think she had to be to work by 5 o'clock. So they go back, and as Tasha's getting ready, a bunch of them are hanging out at the house. And so it's Tasha and Kayla, who are the same age, right? But then Tasha also has an older brother, and Kayla has an older brother. And I believe Tasha and Kayla's older brothers are about the same age. So they're about 18. And then there's Kevin, who is there. Kevin is 24. Just going to leave that out there. We're going to talk about it in a second. Kayla decides as after Tasha goes back to or goes to work, hey, I'm going to hang out here for a little bit because again, Kayla and Jimmy are very close, which makes her very close to Tasha's brother, which also unfortunately makes her very close to Kevin. And everybody thought of Kevin as family, and so it was not a big deal for Kayla to hang out with them for a little bit. They all get to talking, and then eventually Kayla decides, hey, we should hang out later tonight. So her and Kevin make plans that Kevin's going to come pick her up later that night. And Kayla goes home shortly after. I want to say she goes home about 6:30, 7 o'clock, back to her dad's house, or technically her grandparents' house. At about 8:45 on August 11th, Kevin comes to pick Kayla up. Kayla calls out to her dad and says goodbye. Kevin's here. I'm going to go hang out with him for the night. No big deal. Kayla's dad, James, knows who Kevin is. Jimmy heard that they were going to hang out. Hope has known that they've hung out before. It's no big
But
deal.
she's 15.
Yeah, let's pause right here because why is it okay for everybody that this 24-year-old is hanging out with a 15-year-old?
What do they have to talk about?
Good question. What do the 15-year-old and the 24-year-old have in common? So
Was Kevin like a strong pillar in the community, or maybe
no.
he was rejected
know.
by people his age?
Okay, that I can get on board with. He is not like a community figure that you look at and say, "Ooh, everybody should trust and hang out with Kevin." Based on what I know from studying this case and from talking to people that live there, he's not like the pillar of coolness. But to your point, Janelle, and that's where I think this causes alarm. You're right. Maybe he did not get along with people his age. So now I have to knock my peg down a few. And my friends are these 18-year-olds. And then I'm going to hang out with their sisters. Okay. So Kayla's dad wakes up the next morning. Kayla is not there. So he immediately calls Kevin and says, where the fuck is my daughter? Kevin says, we hung out with a friend the night before. I dropped her off at another house upon her request, and that was it. Kayla's supposed to spend the night at this friend's house. And again, I go back to she was sleeping on a cot. Her dad is, yeah, okay, cool. I guess she stayed the night at whoever's house. Another day passes, and now he's a little more alarmed. And now Hope calls him and says, actually, I think Hope maybe even waited one whole other day. So now I think it's 3 days since she's been missing. And says, have you seen Kayla? And her dad's, no, I haven't seen her. Last time I seen her was with Kevin, but Kevin assured me that she's with this other friend. Jimmy says, I thought she was with these friends. So Hope's calling everybody under the sun. The last ray of hope comes in, and Jimmy says, no, she's been at this friend's house. And Hope calls that friend, and still to no avail. So it's at that point that they finally decide to go to the police. And this is, I believe, 5 or 6 days later. Now, before you come for these parents, I do want to make a few things known because these parents definitely got attacked on social media. They definitely got attacked by a lot of things. Number one is 3 days ago, the same shit happened and their daughter was fine.
Right.
And so they have this reassurance of, I'm sure it's okay because last time I panicked, I overreacted.
This
Number
is just her.
Right. This is what she does. Number two is she doesn't stay at the house very often. So it's not unlike her to be somewhere else, right? And so during these 6 days, Hope is calling everywhere. Her dad's calling everywhere. She's got a lot of friends. And when Jimmy gave her that last glimmer of hope and said, hey, I think she's at this friend's house. Oh shit, I never even thought to call that person. We're still going down the rabbit hole of where she could she be. I don't know. Maybe this is a good time to pause for a brief second and say, if you're in this situation and Missy, you're a mom and you have a teenage son, I don't know, what would you do?
I was actually going to bring that up earlier. My son is actually 15. When I hear any stories about kids that are 15, especially earlier, say 2009, like when we were teens, things flew a little bit more than they do now, maybe, but I just know if there was some 24-year-old that wanted to come and hang out with my kid, I would be like, no. He has such a problem with that. But
We're different kind of people too, though. We consume a lot of true crime.
this is true. This is true. Immediately, I'm like, why does this 24-year-old want to hang out with you? Where, yes, that might not be where everybody else goes with it. I don't like the idea of even allowing her to go sleep at friends' houses so much and
Right.
do all of the free reign that she had. But yeah,
I think my son's only 10, so I'm not quite there, but he goes out and does stuff on his own. And for example, today my friend texted me and said, hey, he's walking home from the pool. I didn't immediately go get him. You have to walk on this fine line of when do I let him grow up and when do I be overprotective, right?
yes, just knowing my kid's almost 16, very close to 16, and at some point here, it's gonna have to, just trust that he can figure out how to get home by himself or take care of himself. That's really hard as a parent. And also for her parents, I'm sure they didn't know what, no one gives you any instruction book, especially in the teenage years. There's no right or wrong on how to, there are, but
Everybody does it different.
everybody does it different. Everybody has a
Right.
different.
If they had panicked immediately and gone back to the police station, it would have just been like, oh gosh, these people again.
And that's, yeah, that's the
Well-
thing with them. They're probably just embarrassed they went the first time, right? Oh, no, just wait. We'll just wait.
Yeah, and pin in that, Janelle, because yeah, that will come. During all of this questioning and calling out to all these friends, they do eventually get a hold of one of Kayla's friends by the name of Beth, who was working at McDonald's that night. And the night that she went out with Kevin, Beth stated that Kevin and Kayla came to visit her at McDonald's that night, a little bit before 10 o'clock, I believe. And they were super excited to hang out. And they said, hey, Beth, you should come hang out with us later on today. And then Kayla let her in on this little secret of, yeah, I'm hanging out with Kevin and he got me. And this fucking blew my mind. She said, yeah, he got me a welcome home present. And it was a fucking joint. Can somebody tell me why a 24-year-old is providing a 15-year-old marijuana and they're gonna hang out all night together and smoke it and drive around and do that? I should note that Kayla told Beth, like, I'll call you later when you get off of work and we'll hang out. So then we go to day 4 of her missing again, and Hope goes back to Kevin and says, what the fuck happened that night? Don't tell me I don't know. I'm tired of this shit. And so he finally says, okay, I've jogged my memory. I dropped Kayla off at her ex-boyfriend's house. So this is Miguel, the 19-year-old who lives in Wausau. Miguel was one of the people who would throw the parties in Wausau. And so this just sounds like a whole bunch of bullshit for a couple of reasons. Number one, Kevin, you went from I don't know, to all of a sudden I dropped her off at her ex-boyfriend's house. That's red flag number 1 for me. Red flag number 2 for me is the house that he dropped her off at was Miguel's old house, which was condemned by the city, which he no longer lived in and hadn't lived there for 30 fucking days. And Kayla knew that he didn't live there because she had seen him in Wausau 3 days prior at a party that she wasn't supposed to be at. And in addition to that, all of Kayla's friends said anytime Kayla had plans, we knew about it. Anytime Kayla wanted to see Miguel, she didn't need to get a ride because Miguel would always give her a ride. So what the fuck, Kevin, really went on?
Was this house boarded up condemned or just like, hey, don't go there anymore condemned?
Good question, but it will be stated later by Kevin that he said when he dropped her off, it was pitch black. There was no lights on in the house, there was no lights on outside.
Okay. Because I'm torn because I believe that, yes, Miguel probably could have just picked her up, but the sneaky 15-year-old in me goes, but if you want to be sneaking around and drinking and smoking pot with your ex-boyfriend who you're not supposed to be around, what better than a condemned abandoned house?
When we go down the theory rabbit hole, that is definitely one of the things that comes up. But we're at day 6, and Hope finally says, okay, I've had enough. I need to call the police department. So she reports the scene.
You say day 6?
Yeah, because they had all of this 2 days passed before Hope even reached out to Kayla's dad, because Kayla was supposed to be living with her dad, and Kayla's dad didn't have any alarm for 2 days because he talked to Kevin. Kevin said, I dropped her off at a friend's house. Her dad thought that was fine. Then when Hope did reach out, hey, she could be here, she could be there, she could be anywhere, we also just overreacted. And then don't forget that Jimmy, the brother, finally came back and said, hey, did you call this person? I heard she was at this person's house. So that all happened in a matter of 6 days, and it was a ton of miscommunication.
I think this case, and when I was looking at it earlier, I had this moment where when you have this just the series of events that seem to lead up to the thing, to the case, to the person missing, to the person get murdered, whatever it is, you have these events where it's just the constant miscommunication between the parents, and if this wouldn't have happened, then that wouldn't have happened, and that just drove me so nuts with this case because I feel like this case could be an easy solve,
Yes.
but because this happened and that happened, now it's been unsolved for a long time.
Yeah, we are actually 14 years of this happening.
Yeah. And I just feel like it could have been maybe an easy solve if it would have been, oh, I hate to say it, but something quicker happened.
Hope brings it to the cops. The cops start to question her friends, and the cops feel that her friends are a little evasive. And so they initially put Kayla as a runaway. And after some more time passes, and then this evidence comes up from Kevin driving her around that night and giving her weed. They finally say, okay, maybe she was an endangered missing persons. So the police go back to Kevin and question Kevin. And Kevin again states he, quote unquote, took Kayla where she wanted to go, to her ex's home. And again, this wasn't crazy because Kevin drove everybody everywhere. He was a taxi driver. This is what he did. So I do want to go back and note again. If Kayla, again, you're a 15-year-old girl, you're in love. If I'm going to go see my boyfriend, I'm going to tell the fucking world, right? You're going to know, you're going to know, you're going to know, you're going to know. Nobody fucking knew. And so that was another red flag to a lot of her friends was you said she was going to go hang out with Miguel, but nobody else knew about that. Kevin's the only guy who knew that she was going to go hang out with Miguel. That's weird. You're dropping her off at Miguel's old house. That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
So the police say, okay, fine, we'll play your game. We'll question Miguel too. Miguel says, I haven't seen her since she was at my house a couple days ago when we had that party. She hasn't called me. She hasn't texted me since then. So the police are like, this is the last place that she was. So let's search your house. Let's search this condemned house. They search his house. They search the condemned house. Nothing comes up. So that's when the police say, okay, I guess she's not a runaway. She didn't run away with her boyfriend. Now she is an endangered missing child. Weeks and weeks pass. Multiple leads come up. Somebody says they saw Kayla at Walmart. It was not Kayla at Walmart. And Many rumors come up. One rumor even came up saying that Kayla was pregnant and this girl got jealous of her and they murdered her. Some people say that maybe Miguel did something to her. Some people say that Kevin did something to her. So there's always speculation just going around and around, right? The police eventually go back to here's the facts that we have. Kevin's the last person to see her. Kevin dropped her off at this empty house. Let's go search the land around this house. They brought in, I think they brought in heat sensor helicopters that searched the land. They brought in some dogs, and I think they came up on maybe one anomaly in a lake. So then they sent cadaver dogs out to a lake. Nothing came up. Everything was cold. So the police went back to Kevin and said, all right, motherfucker, what's your timeline? What happened that night? I picked Kayla up at around 9 o'clock. We hung around. We went to McDonald's. I dropped her off at this house at 10:30, and I was back at my house by midnight. Turns out his mom gave him an alibi and said that he was at his house at midnight, which gives me fucking Don vibes from Adnan. Your mom can't give you an alibi.
Thank
That should be
you.
a rule in law enforcement. Your mom can't give you an alibi.
The question is, though, if your mom can't, then can your spouse or your children?
Like, you guys would 1,000% give a fake alibi for me.
That's the SWAC PACK code. We just do that.
That is hard though, because obviously parents are gonna lie for you. Friends would, a spouse would, but let's say shit goes south with your spouse. That person can then just say, I take that alibi back. Most of the time, your parents are probably not gonna take that alibi back.
Spent time thinking about this, and I can honestly say that my first reaction would be to provide an alibi. And it's not because I want the person I'm alibying for to get away with something bad. It's because I would want to have a chance to figure out the truth and how I can help in that truth.
But then you're in a predicament because then if you go back on your alibi, you're going to jail too.
But you're not going to think that when you're thinking of how do I protect my baby?
Let's put a hypothetical out there. I am being charged or being looked at for a missing person or a murder, and you give me an alibi right away. And I sit down and talk to you, and I'm like, yeah, David, shit went south, and sorry, I did it. Do you then go to the police and say, sorry, I take my alibi back, and now I'm an accessory to crime because I lied?
Would that be like obstruction?
I would be okay with that because I'm still protecting. What my intent would be is I'm going to find a way to protect with what truth I have until I can do better.
So you keep up the lie until you can make me quote unquote safe?
I personally think that's the way that I would go. Once I found out what happened, I would like to think I would say, okay, we need to go to the police and we need to tell them exactly what happened. But now that I know the truth, I can get the attorney and the help that is needed to help find a way to make it as right as possible.
If my son is 24 and he's smoking a bunch of weed with a 15-year-old girl that he's picking up and hanging out with all night, and then she goes missing, and she's a 15-year-old girl and all of our families know each other, I think I'd be a little less nice than you would be. 100% like would want to protect my child, but again, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing with a 15-year-old girl and then smoking weed with her and now she's missing?
David, I feel like your take on this is unpopular opinion. That's anti what any of us should want. Don't be messing with the investigation.
I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just saying that I think that's what I would do. I don't mean that I'm doing things the correct way.
I do agree with David to an extent.
The antithesis of what, like, all of these cases that we talk about, it's just so, I'm surprised to hear you say that. That's all. I'm not mad at you. I'm just so surprised.
And remember, I said I would do the same.
I don't know why we're surprised about David's take, because I feel like you're the king of the hot take.
Your stance, Dana.
I don't
True.
have kids.
Are you mad at
I don't-
David too?
I don't have kids. I feel like it's just not my best place to stand on this. But I think about my mom, and I love her so much, but she is throwing me directly under that bus. If I did something wrong and there's a consequence, you're gonna have to deal with that consequence, kiddo.
If a police officer called my mother, he's not going to say, we are suspecting your daughter of this crime. He's just going to say, hey, when was the last time you saw your daughter?
If a police is calling me and asking me when's the last time I saw my son, and my initial reaction is, what the fuck did they do?
My mom's initial reaction would be like, what happened to her? Is she alive?
I'm officially a bad parent. Kevin pleads not guilty to the charges. They charge him with reckless endangerment because he took a 15-year-old around, driving around and getting her high. While Kevin is in police custody, police now have Kevin and Miguel. So they say, we're going to test both of their cars with luminol. And Miguel's car and I think Kevin's car both come up with a little bit of luminol that test positive, but nothing that comes back that is enough to be evidence. So that's thrown out.
I'm just thinking in rural Wisconsin, having blood in your car might not be the most unusual thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. So there may be some of that. The police said they hired this other private investigator who had cadaver dogs, and they said, hey, okay, we're going to do this other further basically they were trying to do everything they could do to get Kevin, because they're like, all the shit's pointing to Kevin. What can we do to get him? So they bring this private investigator out with cadaver dogs, and the cadaver dogs are trained to find human remains. So they line up 10 cars, and in this car panel, Kevin's car is somewhere, Miguel's car is somewhere. Guess where a dog hit?
Kevin.
On Kevin's vehicle. So even though that's suspicious, even though he has luminol in his car, it's still not fucking enough to charge him with anything. And let me throw in another suspicious thing that happens with him. They were able to track his cell phone, and they tracked his cell phone the night that Kayla went missing. And guess what? His cell phone magically turned off from 10:30 till about 2 o'clock the next afternoon.
Kevin doesn't seem like this evil genius kind of guy.
No, he's
How-
not. And so the phone thing, they
quite
looked at
honestly,
previous activity, and that was normal for him.
I think his phone probably just died. If it was me and I was trying to commit a crime, I wouldn't even think I need to turn my phone off.
For you though, you would have an alibi because David
Correct.
It would be my alibi.
She said, David, I don't understand why you're doing this, until she's in the hot seat. She said, David, I love it. but 20 years ago, right ish, was there enough technology, statistic, true crime stuff out there to be like, oh shit, I need to turn off my phone because of cell phone tower track?
I don't think 24-year-old stoner Kevin is plotting out this.
No, you're right. His phone probably died, or he probably just usually turned his phone off. It's fine.
And if there's terrible reception, what are you going to do with your phone anyway?
I do want to also note there's one shady thing about Miguel. So they looked into his phone records, and he had another phone, and that phone actually pinged twice that night a bit north of Wausau. They brought some people out there, couldn't find anything. They brought cadaver dogs back to a couple other places, and basically no evidence was able to be found, even though we have all this circumstantial shit. All charges are dropped. Nobody's looked at anymore. Until everybody sit down and have a drink,
Oh boy.
because we're going to watch something now.
we should take a poll if anybody else knows what it is.
Oh god.
Does anybody know what we're about to watch? I
No.
think Missy knows what we're about to watch.
I do. Okay.
Trigger warning, that's what's about to happen.
100%. Yep, basically everything's dropped against Kevin and Miguel. Years and years and years pass. 7 years later, a video surfaces. A video is brought to the Antigo Police Department. It's known as a High Walter video. This video was originally posted 2 months after Kayla went missing. And this is all of your trigger warnings. Very disturbing. So I should note, Kayla was a 15-year-old brown-haired, medium-build woman. And let's just watch this.
Hi, Walter. I was at the mall today, and guess what happened? I met the most wonderful girl. We went shopping at JCPenney's, and she tried on a lot of clothes. And she ended up buying a whole lot of them. And then we decided to go and take a look at some of the jewelry at K Jewelers, and she picked out this most awesome necklace, the most amazing necklace I've ever seen. And I know she wanted me to buy it for her because she kept on looking at me and kept on giving me that look. You know the look. And then we got tired of the mall, and I brought her back to my place. And I know she hates cameras, Walter, but I'm going to show you her anyways. You ready?
I don't believe it.
I remember when that first came out, and just the heebie-jeebies.
So, Hope watched this video, and Hope was in tears, and Hope was convinced that was Kayla. So she brought this concern to the Antigo Police Department, and the Antigo Police Department researched it, and it gained national attention. It was on, like, I think Good Morning America. It was on Nightline, like all these TV shows, right? And if it did finally come out that they found the people responsible for the video, and to David's point, they were actors.
Fuck them. That is disgusting.
Fucking garbage. The only good thing that came of this video was that Kayla's case got some national attention. Unfortunately, we're still at the place we are today as we were 2009. We don't have any other answers. This is where the road ends. A couple things that have happened since Kayla's disappearance. Kayla's dad did pass in 2011 of cancer. He died never giving up hope that Kayla was gonna eventually be found and return to her family. Her graduating class, they made bracelets and they wore bracelets in her memory. They released balloons on the day that she was to graduate. And probably the saddest thing ever is Kayla's brother, Jimmy, had a daughter and named her Kayla.
Oh,
Facebook page, which Hope is still very active in. And she still looks for leads till this day. This is very much an active cold case. And so if anybody has any information about it, you're urged to contact Langley County or Antigo Police Department. And the phone number for them is 715-627-6411. So I didn't think I was going to tear up, but here we are. But my Speculating Wildly crew, I would love you all to speculate with me. What happened to this poor girl?
I don't even know how to speculate on this one. Kevin's only defense was his mom's alibi.
Pretty much. Not only did the cadaver dogs touch on his car in the lineup of 10,
And
the cadaver dogs were brought back a couple months later, and they touched on 2 spots in Antigo, which both led back to Kevin, one being his parents' house and one being a potato farm that he worked on. I don't know what more the Antigo police need or the Wausau police need to put this shit on this guy. I don't know that there's another explanation.
There's still no body, right?
There's still no body. Yeah.
I'm sure that plays a factor into it. I'm sure if there was a body, Kevin would be gone. If I take 10 cars and I put mine and Cody's, send dogs to go sniff out Cody, she's been in both cars. Of course, they're going to be drawn to those cars versus I've never been in
But
a car, right? So, like,
but these cadaver dogs were only supposed to go after human remains, not just Kayla's scent, human remains.
I just don't know how much of that I trust. I believe in the whole scent thing, but I don't know that I've ever believed in the whole scent, dead or alive.
Yeah,
But
I don't know
Dogs,
enough about it.
I mean, dogs really can smell though. And dead things, they're very attracted to.
Gosh, David, you're being
Mine-
mean to dogs
mine-
now.
like, what happened?
So are you putting cadaver dogs on the same playing field as polygraphs, David? Could point you in a direction, but they don't really mean much.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen cases like that, right? Was there ever a known connection between Miguel and Kevin?
They couldn't pinpoint that for sure.
Okay.
So what I will say is, and one thing I didn't know before is Kevin was a known drug dealer. Miguel was a known party host. So maybe in some worlds they connected, but it was never for sure stated.
Because what happens in my mind is what I think Dana was saying is the whole, oh, there's an abandoned house. This is a great place to hang out and smoke pie. Like, it's a safe place to me because I'm familiar with it. And so she's with Kevin and she says, hey, Kevin, let's go to my boyfriend Miguel to his abandoned house. And then she shows up to smoke pot with another dude that's 24 years old. And Miguel's, who the fuck is this? And they start fighting, and then she's a victim.
But how do two very high guys hide a body that well?
And these are masterminds. Like,
But we always want to say the masterminds, but when you think about, when you actually look at crimes, the people that got away with things for 20 plus years, the truth always comes out. But when you think about the people that actually got away with things, and the body was buried under a bag of leaves, it's not a mastermind that does it. It's the careless people that are just like, I'm gonna put here in plain sight. Those are the ones that get away with it, not the ones that have actually calculated things. The only reason we know of the calculation of things is because they've been caught.
Who says they were high at the time they buried the body?
Maybe, but
Like,
were they that
yeah.
much smarter when they weren't high?
no, I feel like Kevin was always high.
But when you're, but also,
I know people who are high all the time who still manage to do a lot of shit.
I'm sure at some point higher authority got involved. But if you have this smallish town, regardless of how many police there are, the experience they have is limited. How great of a mastermind you have to be when you're dealing with 3 cops who have dealt with a total of a half of a murder throughout their career.
When this case got to like the national level, don't you think they would have been scrambling to be like, we did it, we solved this case? Like,
I think they did, right? So they went down this whole rabbit hole and they did find the people. And then when they found out that video was a hoax, they were like, fuck,
Yeah.
now what?
Now credibility's gone. You spend all this time and things that have decayed or been disturbed, such as earth.
I think we're forgetting there's a potato farm. They had 6 days from the time she was even reported missing. I don't think they had to be super brilliant, but I also don't think it's that hard to know that you have to bury a body. And if you have land like a potato farm, or you have land and equipment and you have time, because no one even thinks she's missing for 6 days. You guys are like saying that they have to be smart for some of the stuff. I don't think you have to be honestly that smart for some of the stuff.
And if he did bury her, he didn't necessarily know when the parents were going to report her missing. So it might have been like day 4, and he's, oh shit, nobody's saying it. I guess I can go now and do something rather than it's day 1.
Yeah.
Maybe he was expecting to get caught, and he's, oh my gosh, it's day 5, and nobody seems to even be onto this whole thing. I might get away with it. Okay.
And another thing I'm curious about too is we said what there was 10,000 people ish in this town.
8,000, yeah.
So I would love to know the legal connection that Miguel or Kevin may have had.
Did a little Reddit dive, but I didn't see a ton of that. The biggest things that came up in Reddit were Kevin did it, or maybe she got pregnant and somebody wanted to be done with her, or the other popular theory is a drug deal gone bad.
But she was the only one killed in a drug deal gone bad. What about the other ones? What about because she wasn't the dealer, right?
We don't know. She was the mule.
The middle person.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but she should have stayed in Texas.
She regrets moving back.
Easy grab is Kevin, but then another part of me says if he did in fact drop her off at this condemned abandoned house.
It's not an awful neighborhood. Actually, my friend just bought a house in Wausau. She said it's about 1.5 miles from this house. I'm going to share my screen really quick. This is a house.
Oh,
Yeah.
so not like Skid Row that I'm thinking of.
I guarantee a family's living in here today.
Yeah.
So I think he just didn't take care of it. You know what I mean? Like he's a 19-year-old kid.
I don't know, but it's an easy grab for Kevin just because there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points in that general direction, in my opinion. And as we were talking here, I don't know, Jamie, if you looked up his public court record through the state. I pulled it up just because I was curious. And prior to 2009, he had 2 misdemeanor pot charges, one for possession of THC, and then one was like for drug paraphernalia, both misdemeanors, which to me is, in my opinion, it's okay. So you were what? A shitty drug dealer in a small town.
Right.
And since those 2 drug charges, I think the next one was in 2010, and they look like they're mostly like small claims courts with various banks and paternity and marriages. I guess there was like one operating a motor vehicle without proof of insurance, I think. Pales in
Sounds like a
comparison to
totally Kevin thing to do.
I saw that was in 2020 and he's still in Lake County.
yeah, and I think there's like a Marionette County.
But Marinette is close to Langlade, right? Next door almost.
Oh, look, it's not unreasonable.
He's a
mean,
lost soul, y'all.
Like, maybe this is like me giving a pass to like breaking the law, but not having insurance pales in compared to being a murder suspect.
Also, I see nothing now that you're saying this. There's no 2009 charges.
None.
So that was fucking cleared?
Yes.
That's bullshit. All right, I'm back on the Kevin is a dick train. Sorry.
Can I say that he's guilty of being creepy, being a 24-year-old hanging out with a 15-year-old?
No, more than that's
Okay.
weird.
That's what I will give him my personal opinion of 100% guilty of that.
I have to say though, I do think, I can't believe I'm saying this. I do think it's a different time now than probably then.
Yeah, and to Dana's point of a small town, and he was a family friend, and okay. But even still, I can be okay with him giving rides. I can be okay with him hanging out. Why is he giving them beer? Why is he giving them weed? Where does the line stop? He's 24 and he's hanging out with a 15-year-old.
I feel like Kevin and Miguel I feel like
Connection?
that Kevin drove her to Miguel's abandoned house. He gets,
Oh, yeah.
and Miguel's like, "Why the fuck you with this dude?" And this dude is like, "What the fuck?" And then this whole like brawl starts, and she gets in the crossfire of it.
I could see that.
And then
Okay.
they're both like, "Now what the fuck do we do? Let's get rid of the body because if I go down, you're going down. We got to get rid of her."
I don't buy it. Like Kevin is a fuck up. There's no way he is not.
But if he has Miguel to guide him,
Only one person can keep a secret.
Yeah.
There's no way that one of these guys has not managed to.
But Miguel hasn't been a suspect, right? Eyes haven't been on him,
He was for a minute. Yeah.
but not as much as Kevin, right?
Not quite as much, but
Pressure was
almost.
in. So why would Miguel speak up and say anything?
I have so many things to say after all of that. The first thing is just because whatever their court history is does not mean they are or are not a killer. His entire background check we just did does not mean that he did it or did not do it. I just want to put that out there. The second thing is I almost had the same thought as David, not quite as much, but like I did think, what if Miguel and Kevin did have something at some, or like one of them's a drug dealer, one of them's a party. Like, what if they did know each other and something happened that night? She was supposed to go meet Miguel at his house, or you said that she knew that he had changed houses, but I'm like, what if
She was at his new house.
I don't really think it's Miguel. And yes, it's really easy to point to.
So to your point, though, I had thought about this. What if her and Miguel decided to meet at his old house for some reason?
I think Dana could be on to something with that too. Let's just go meet at the old house because it's more quiet and out of the way, or no one's gonna see what we're doing here or whatever.
And we know no one's there.
Of course, we don't actually even know that they even went to the old house because that's a story Kevin told. The entire thing.
Why you gotta throw that wrench in there?
The whole thing could just be a story that Kevin made up. Miguel had nothing to do with it. The house had nothing to do with it. He was just saying the story. However, okay, so yes, it is.
So all we really know is McDonald's.
All we know is McDonald's for sure, and that she was hanging out with him and they were smoking weed. But I think that yes, it is super easy to point at Kevin because, okay, cadaver dogs. We have hits.
Three places.
We have hits on the car, the potato farm, and the land.
His parents' house.
We don't have a solid alibi. That's another thing. Okay. His mom gave him the alibi. There's no solid alibi here. And also, police do not believe in coincidences. She went missing. He was the last person to see her alive. To me, that just speaks fucking Kevin. And I'm going to say, I really think Kevin did have something to do with it. I don't think my whole opinion is that I think they were hanging out. I think Kevin was a creeper. I think Kevin made a move. I think she rejected him. I think he killed her, not intentionally. I think it was more of accidentally, like he didn't go in planning to kill her. I think something happened and then it's been unsolved ever since. I think that Kevin did do it. I think that because he doesn't have anything else on his record, just to me says he didn't intend to do it and it was just a fuck up accident and now it's just a big secret. That's where I'm going.
I am 1,000% in your corner. That was where I was going is they got there, they were high as fuck, and I don't even know, to your point, if they went to that house, but I think they went somewhere.
Yep.
And he was like, oh, I've always thought you were so pretty, and I'm so glad you moved back here. And she was like, the fuck? I have this guy. Get off of me. And something happened. She died. But the only thing I will say in the defense of that is stress does things to your body. This motherfucker looks happy as shit, has a kid, has a wife.
My whole thought with that is like, why else would you smoke again weed or drink vodka or do whatever with a 15-year-old if you're not intending to get them fucked up enough so that their inhibitions are down? 15-year-olds don't have the same kind of resilience that the rest of us do. So even just giving her one beer or something could be enough to get her fucked up so she doesn't have the same inhibitions as she's sober. So to me, that just means he's trying to get her fucked up, take her out to a secluded spot, and make his move, and shit went south.
Even just that hesitation of, how dare you? I took you.
100%. And now you're out in the middle of, you might not know, you're out in the middle of somewhere in a car with this guy, and he has got you all fucked up, so you can't even fight back the same you would.
This was crazy. This is a good one, y'all. And I honestly thought it was just going to be like a quick open and shut case and we wouldn't have much to speculate on, but Here we are proving our name.
Can I talk about the elephant in the room? Janelle, are we still friends?
I think a lot of your choices are questionable, but it's fine.
Thank you for speculating with me. This was amazing. Favorite night of my week. So I appreciate y'all. Until next time, all we can do is speculate wildly. We don't want you to miss any of our future recordings. Please take this time now to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at SWAC Pod. That's SWACPOD. Or you can contact us via email for any questions, comments, or case ideas at swacpod@gmail.com. Thank you for speculating wildly with us tonight.